Imagine for a second you're a tech CEO in Silicon Valley. You've got, billions of dollars in capital.
Right.
You have the absolute brightest engineers on the planet, and your mandate is to build the most advanced artificial intelligence in human history.
Sounds like a pretty good gig.
I mean, on paper, yeah. But your biggest roadblock right now, it isn't writing better code or designing better algorithms.
Yeah, not at all.
Your biggest roadblock is actually figuring out how to buy a nuclear power plant.
Yeah, which is just wild to think about.
And simultaneously, your profit margins are being completely dictated by, by a cargo ship navigating a contested strait halfway across the globe.
Exactly. I mean, we always tend to view our modern world in these neat little silos, like the economy is over here, geopolitics is over there, technology is in its own little bubble.
Right, but none of this happens in a vacuum.
No, it's this massive, highly sensitive, interconnected engine, like a tremor in one sector, almost immediately triggers an earthquake in another.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. We designed this deep dive specifically for you as your ultimate shortcut to just being well-informed.
Yeah, the goal is to give you the context, the mechanics, and the underlying connections of the world right now without drowning you in info overload.
Exactly. And today we're grounding our entire conversation in a single comprehensive source. It's the daily Tech Reader 4 p.m. news brief from Tuesday, July 14th, 2026.
That's our blueprint for today.
Yep. Our mission is to trace the invisible wires connecting a sudden drop in domestic inflation, a military blockade in the Middle East, a massive power grab by AI companies, and somehow the World Cup.
It's all connected.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with what, on the surface, looks like a massive victory for the American wallet.
Oh, yeah, the inflation numbers.
Right. So June's consumer inflation slowed down to 3.5% annually, but the real shocker is the monthly consumer price index. It actually fell 0.4%.
Very huge.
It's the largest single monthly decline we've seen in years. And core prices, which strip out all the volatile stuff, they remained completely flat for the month. So on paper, we beat inflation.
Well, I mean, it looks fantastic on a spreadsheet. Financial markets absolutely rallied on this data.
Right.
But we have to look at the mechanical driver behind that 0.4% drop. What's fascinating here is that this was not caused by a structural improvement in the domestic U.S. economy.
Okay, so it wasn't about, wages stabilizing or housing costs finally coming down.
No, not at all. It was almost entirely a mirage created by energy prices. Specifically, gasoline and fuel oil prices plummeted by over 9% in June.
Wow. Over 9%, which, that feels amazing at the gas pump, right?
Oh, for sure.
But there is a highly specific and unfortunately very temporary geopolitical reason for that massive drop. And actually, before we get into the mechanics of that, I want to take a quick second and be incredibly clear with you listening.
Yeah, this is important.
Because the facts we are unpacking touch heavily on the U.S.-Iran conflict, I need to explicitly state that we are strictly and neutrally reporting the events exactly as they are laid out in the briefing.
Right.
We are not taking political sides. We're not endorsing any viewpoints here. We are just simply mapping out how these global events physically alter the global economy.
Exactly. And mapping that out requires looking at the timeline. That massive drop in energy prices perfectly coincided with a temporary U.S.-Iran ceasefire.
Ah.
Because global energy markets, they operate heavily on risk speculation, right? So when hostilities paused, the perceived risk to global oil supply just vanished overnight.
And so prices plummeted, and that pulled U.S. inflation down with it.
Precisely. And this is the kicker, that economic win is already evaporating because the ceasefire ended and the fighting has resumed.
Right. The briefing notes the U.S. is now actively enforcing a blockade on vessels entering or leaving Iranian ports and oil facilities.
Yeah, and the ripple effects of that blockade are immediate.
Oh?
We're looking at severe disruptions to global commerce.
2 UAE-associated tankers were struck in the crossfire, which tragically resulted in the death of a crew member.
Yeah, it's escalating quickly.
And in response to retaliatory attacks from Iran, European aviation authorities have completely restricted airspace over the region. Airlines are currently routing entirely around Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, the UAE, and the Gulf of Oman.
It is a logistical nightmare for shipping and travel.
Now, the U.S. administration did make a maneuver to ease some of the commercial panic.
They did, yeah. They withdrew a proposed 20% security charge on cargo moving through the Strait of Hormuz after some direct discussions with Gulf governments.
Okay, so neutral passage is still formally permitted.
It is. But the underlying tension is actively driving oil prices right back up anyway.
Wait, I want to pause on the mechanics of that for a second. Let's connect the Gulf of Oman to, like, a local gas station in Ohio.
Sure.
How does a localized conflict thousands of miles away dictate our domestic inflation numbers so rapidly? Don't we produce a massive amount of our own oil?
We do, but oil is a globally priced commodity. So when we look at the data, Brent crude, which is the major global benchmark for oil prices, it spiked to an $85 one-month high because of this resumed conflict.
Oh, wow.
And U.S. crude followed right behind it, nearing $80 a barrel. So even if the oil in your car was drilled in Texas, its price is dictated by global supply and demand.
That makes sense.
Right. So if a massive shipping lane like the Strait of Hormuz is threatened, global supply shrinks. Buyers worldwide start outbidding each other for whatever oil is left, and that includes American oil.
So the moment those UAE tankers were struck, the speculative premium on a barrel of oil just shot up.
Exactly, meaning next month's inflation report will almost certainly reverse June's progress.
It is wild to think about the global economy like a car engine. Like, we're driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour, and the check engine light is just glaring red.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And we managed to turn the light off for a few weeks by essentially just tapping the dashboard during that ceasefire, but the underlying mechanical issue is still there.
Very much so.
I mean, if a brief pause in conflict fixed inflation that quickly, doesn't that mean our entire domestic economy is completely at the mercy of shipping lanes thousands of miles away?
That is the vulnerability of a hyper-connected supply chain.
Right.
When international diplomacy functions, fuel flows, prices drop, and inflation cools.
Right.
But when conflict flares, the pipeline chokes, and the cost of literally everything transported by truck or ship immediately rises.
And this precarious energy supply crisis is crashing headfirst into an immediate, massive surge in energy demand.
Oh, yeah. The timing is awful.
Because we aren't just dealing with geopolitical heat, right? We are dealing with literal physical heat. Extreme weather is currently blanketing the U.S., placing this tremendous, prolonged pressure on regional electricity grids.
The geographic footprint of this heat wave is just relentless. We're seeing entrenched heat in the Central Plains, accompanied by scattered storms bringing localized hail and flooding.
And the Northeast is pushing into the 90s with really heavy humidity.
Right. And the Southwest is seeing desert locations sitting near or even above 110 degrees.
Wow. And beyond just the strain on the power grid, there is a massive strain on the public health system. But it's not just about the peak temperatures at noon, right?
No. The peak daytime heat gets the headlines, obviously. But the real silent killer in these prolonged weather events is the high nighttime temperature.
Why is that?
Physiologically, your body handles heat by kicking your cardiovascular system into overdrive. Your heart pumps harder to push blood to your skin so you can sweat and release heat.
Okay.
Normally, when the sun goes down and temperatures drop, your heart rate slows down and your body hits a resting baseline to recover.
Oh, I see. But when it stays hot at night?
Exactly. When nighttime temperatures stay elevated, your cardiovascular system never gets to rest. It just keeps working hour after hour, night after night.
That makes total sense. You are basically running a low-grade marathon while you sleep.
That's exactly it. And for older adults, children, outdoor workers, and anyone without dependable air conditioning, that compounding physiological debt can turn into an emergency very quickly.
Which is why the briefing says checking on isolated neighbors is one of the most effective interventions during a heat wave.
Yes. You have to catch the warning signs of heat illness before the body's cooling mechanisms completely fail.
Well, amidst all this medical strain, the briefing actually highlighted one incredibly rare piece of good news regarding health costs.
Yeah, this was surprising.
Despite everything getting more expensive, medical care prices actually declined slightly in June. The indexes for physician services and prescription drugs both decreased.
Yeah, hospital service costs saw a modest increase, but overall, it's a slight reprieve for the wallet.
But the irony here is just glaring to me.
100%.
Right at the exact moment we need maximum sustained electrical power to keep our air conditioners running and our hospitals functioning, the fuel required to generate that power is getting more expensive due to the Gulf conflict.
And that tension introduces the biggest hidden variable in our energy grid. Because our electricity is no longer just powering our physical comfort, right?
Right.
It is powering the digital revolution. We have a massive, relatively new competitor for global electricity, and that is AI data centers.
Okay, let's pivot to the technology sector because this is wild. Despite all the geopolitical volatility and inflation anxiety, tech stocks are operating in an entirely different reality right now.
They really are.
The Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, which tracks the companies that design, manufacture, and sell computer chips, is up roughly 83% for the year.
83%.
Yeah. And TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, which physically builds almost every advanced chip on Earth, they're expected to report their fifth consecutive quarter of record profit.
And Intel is pouring $5.7 billion into an advanced manufacturing operation in Ireland.
The scale of capital being deployed here is historic.
It is. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, what we are witnessing is the AI hype cycle actually maturing.
Okay, how so?
Well, a year ago, investors were perfectly happy to throw billions of dollars at AI companies just for the potential of what the technology could do.
Right, just the promise of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we are past that phase now. The market is now demanding disciplined execution. They want to see all this AI spending translate into measurable productivity and sustainable revenue.
Which means these tech giants have to stop hemorrhaging money on development and figure out how to operate efficiently.
Precisely. Up until now, most AI has been trained on general-purpose accelerators. Chips designed to be pretty good at a wide variety of tasks.
But they're power hungry.
Incredibly power-hungry and expensive. So companies like Meta are changing the game. They are gearing up to manufacture their internally designed Iris AI processor this September, and they have plans to massively increase computing capacity by 2027.
I want to break down why custom silicon matters so much here. Like, why is Meta building its own chips instead of just buying them off the shelf?
Think of a general-purpose chip like a Swiss Army knife. It has a blade, a screwdriver, a corkscrew, a file. It can do a little bit of everything.
Sure.
But if your entire business model is just chopping down trees all day, a Swiss Army knife is horribly inefficient. You want a custom-built chainsaw.
Huh. Okay, that makes sense.
Custom silicon is the chainsaw. It is engineered to do one specific mathematical task, processing AI algorithms at maximum speed with minimum energy waste.
Here's where it gets really interesting. They don't just want to own the chip, they want to own the entire recipe. According to the data, tech giants are seeking what is called vertical control of the entire stack.
And we really have to redefine what the stack means in this context.
Right.
Traditionally in software, the stack meant the operating system, the database, and the user interface.
Very digital.
Right. But today, for AI, the stack means the software models, the custom silicon chips, the physical data centers housing those chips, the cooling systems keeping them from melting, and ultimately the electricity powering the entire facility.
Wow.
AI data centers are consuming so much power, they are single-handedly driving demand for new transformers, substations, and transmission lines.
Okay, I have to stop you there because I'm genuinely stuck on this.
Look up.
The briefing notes that major technology companies are now pledging to cover the infrastructure costs created by their facilities, right? They're funding their own electrical generation and grid upgrades so everyday consumers aren't footing the bill.
Yeah, that's the pledge.
But how does a software company even begin to navigate the heavily regulated bureaucratic nightmare of building physical power lines or power plants? Like, does owning the stack literally mean Meta or Google has to become a utility company?
They are essentially being forced into it.
Really?
Yeah, the energy requirements for training and running these massive AI models are astronomical. We're talking about facilities that draw as much power as entire cities.
That is insane.
So when global energy prices fluctuate like we just saw with the U.S.-Iran conflict, the operating costs for these data centers skyrocket.
So it's a massive financial risk.
Exactly. The only way these tech giants can guarantee their supply and lock in their costs is by controlling the power generation themselves.
Right.
They are actively investing in battery storage, dedicated renewables, and yes, they're heavily exploring nuclear energy because it provides the constant zero-emission baseload power they require.
Wow.
They have realized that to protect their digital output, they must completely own their physical infrastructure.
So we have these hyper-advanced digital brains being built, and they are consuming so much power that they are fundamentally altering our physical landscape.
Yeah, they really are.
Which naturally raises a huge question about the people living in that landscape. What does this mean for human beings?
It's the big question.
If AI is getting this integrated and powerful, what happens to the workers on the ground?
Well, the working careers data in the briefing offers a highly nuanced reality check on this. We have heard endless panic about AI replacing everyone's job, right?
Oh, constantly.
But the data shows that while AI is rapidly changing individual tasks, it is not replacing entire occupations.
Okay, give me an example.
A great example is software engineering. AI coding assistants have simply become ordinary, everyday tools, much like a calculator for an accountant.
Right.
The AI can write a block of code in seconds.
But somebody still has to know if the code is actually good.
Exactly. And more than just knowing if it's good, somebody has to take legal and professional responsibility for it.
Accountability.
Right. The developer remains completely accountable for the system architecture, the security vulnerabilities, the testing protocols, and the final quality of the software. The market is placing a massive premium on human verification.
So the most secure jobs are the ones that act as the bridge between the digital tool and the real world.
Absolutely. The people who can seamlessly connect software outputs, physical infrastructure limitations, business requirements, and accountable human judgment, they are in higher demand than ever.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, enterprise buyers and the massive corporations actually purchasing these AI systems, they don't want rogue, unpredictable AI.
Obviously not.
They want what are called bounded AI agents. These are AI tools that operate within strict, predefined limits, where every permission they request and every result they generate can be observed, audited, and overridden by a human being.
So human accountability is the final failsafe.
Always.
Especially with the international tension and supply chain vulnerabilities we've discussed. I mean, the briefing highlights that cybersecurity expertise is absolutely critical right now.
Oh, it's paramount.
You cannot automate the final line of defense against state-sponsored hacking. There is an irreplaceable human element.
Very true.
And there is one final section in this briefing that I think serves as the ultimate undeniable proof of that human element.
Oh, the culture section.
Yes. Right in the middle of this intense geopolitical stress, inflation, anxiety, heat waves, and billions of dollars being poured into AI infrastructure, we have the World Cup.
World Cup.
The semifinals are happening right here in the U.S., and it is dominating the cultural conversation.
It is the ultimate shared experience.
It is massive. We have France and Spain meeting in Arlington, Texas. You've got Spain's methodical, mathematical midfield control going up against the absolute chaotic speed and attacking threat of France and Kylian Mbappe.
It's going to be an incredible match.
And then Argentina and England are clashing in Atlanta, with Argentina chasing history, trying to secure consecutive World Cup titles for the first time since Brazil did it in the late 50s and early 60s.
That's huge.
But beyond the sports analysis, the briefing made an incredibly poignant observation about this event in the context of everything else we've discussed today.
Yeah, it highlights the boundary of what technology can achieve.
Exactly. Because despite the billions invested in custom iris chips, despite AI models that can write code and predict weather patterns, technology still cannot manufacture the spontaneous, shared uncertainty of millions of people experiencing one live, unscripted moment together.
Think about it. We are building digital systems that can accelerate research in biology, astronomy, chemistry. We are optimizing supply chains and writing algorithms that parse millions of data points a second. But an algorithm is fundamentally deterministic.
Meaning it's designed to be predictable.
Exactly. Live sports are the exact opposite. The entire appeal is the sheer unpredictability of human physical performance. It is a biological drama that no machine can synthesize.
Wow. So what does this all mean? We promised to connect the dots today, and looking at the whole picture, the underlying mechanics are undeniably clear.
Yeah.
A fragile diplomatic ceasefire halfway across the world lowers your local gas prices, which artificially drops our national inflation data.
Why?
But when the conflict resumes, that economic win vanishes. At the same time, extreme heat waves place intense physiological strain on our bodies and massive electrical strain on our power grids.
Exactly.
And this happens right at the exact moment that AI companies realize they need so much electricity, they have to start buying their own physical power plants.
Yeah.
We have a highly advanced digital future being built, but it is entirely, inescapably bound by the physical world.
And observing all of these interconnected systems leaves me with one final, deeply unsettling question.
Okay, what is it?
If the entire future of artificial intelligence relies on tech companies achieving vertical control of the stack, meaning they own the physical power plants, the custom silicon, and the miles of transmission lines, does that make our most advanced digital technology fatally vulnerable to our oldest physical threats?
Oh, wow.
Right. Are we simply building a massive, brilliant digital brain that is entirely dependent on a highly fragile physical nervous system?
A nervous system that can be disrupted by a single extreme weather event?
Or a military blockade on the other side of the planet?
That is a fascinating and slightly terrifying thought to sit with, and it brings us right back to that check engine light flashing on the dashboard of the global economy.
Yep.
The machine is getting exponentially smarter, but the engine is still turning the exact same physical gears. Thank you for joining us on this custom deep dive today. We hope breaking down these underlying mechanics give you a much sharper picture of how your world actually connects.
Thanks for listening.
Stay curious out there, and with these temperatures, please take those heat warnings seriously. We will catch you next time.